Hey guys, it's Nolen and Jason here, Roofing Webmasters.
Howdy.
Today is Nolen's 5 points of roofer review success. And
Say that 4 times fast.
I've told people this for a long time, and I think it's a pretty simple thing to do, but I don't think people think about it. So reviews are important, so I thought I'd review
Obviously,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a quick review, and then we'll deep dive into what are reviews, what do they do for you, what are the misconceptions of what they can and can't do, or do and don't do, and kind of dive into it a little bit as it helps somebody's brand and what it means and does, because I think people miss a lot of points about it. So
Yeah.
So first thing, I'm going to make these fairly quickly and go through them. First thing is to ask for a review.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Ask every time.
I call it the good old boy review. So if you had Southern charm and you're on the front porch stoop, and so you just finished a roof, you said, "Well, ma'am, we sure would appreciate a review." You know, it helps our business out, and other people can find us so that we can do more quality work.
Right.
So in person, ask nicely. Everybody should ask nicely. Now, when you're in person, number two is to hand them a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a piece of paper that y'all made just for this purpose, or it could just be a business card and say, "Hey, if you go to this website, there'll be a review button, or if you Google our name." And so they have something, and what that does is that people have good intentions, but we both know that they're lucky if they get 1 out of 10.
Right.
It may be lower than that nowadays, and we'll talk about what
I tell people if they're asking everybody and they get 1 out of 10, you're batting 1,000. Keep it up. Because a lot of times they're discouraged that they're
Agreed.
only getting 1 out of 10. I'm like,
Agreed.
no, you're doing great.
Yeah, I agree with that. So now they had good intentions, but they maybe didn't do it, and your card's laying around for a little bit, and they remembered, and it helps you get a little bit more.
Right.
And some people respond to different types of stimulus, and so if they hold something in their hand and a piece of paper, I think it's a good move. Now, number three, and you can use this with tools like data pens, but you can text them.
Right.
Everybody should get a text, maybe a couple, but not too many. And then an email, same thing. Everybody should get an email. So
The thing you hand them is good because, like you said, some people respond to that. The email and the text is good because it can have a link in it that they can click and do
Right.
it right there.
Correct.
If they're so inclined.
So the text is 3 and the email is 4.
Right.
And they're both very simple, and Jason's right. They've got links in there that make it easier for them. And all these things happen at a little different time. You ask them right there. I had somebody say, by the way, "Well, we just make them do it right there." And I'm like, I don't know if that's the best policy, and this is a good point to step back for a
How
second.
do you make them?
I don't know if they make them, but they stand there while they do it. So it's like if they don't stand there while they do it, they don't do it. I guess people that get irritated that it's 1 out of 10. But Google will possibly take all your entire map presence down, your Google.
If someone complains.
Well, if they were payola. So if somebody paid,
when you're asking, don't offer incentives.
yeah, if you gave them $100 or a discount or any incentive, it's payola for the review, and you can actually lose your entire Google profile, currently called GBP or Google Business Profile.
Right. Could be different next month.
Could be different later on down the road, but you don't want to pay for any of this stuff. You just ask nice. If you were doing it and people were there in person, and it gets a little gray for me on whether that's within Google's wishes to have a semi-intimidation review.
Like I said, if one person submitted something to Google, and which they can do, there is a complaint form.
Right.
That they could say, this person stood over me and I felt threatened.
Right.
Yeah, you could get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
I don't even mean like with the authorities. I just mean with Google. They could be like, well,
Right.
all of these are suspicious now. Take them all down.
Yeah, and it can happen. So I would just be really nice, be sincere, and ask nice, and hand them a piece of paper, and then later you text them, and then later they open up and they see an email. All this can happen. These first 4 things can all happen while you're at the home. So if you have data pens or another review, reputation management helping software, all that can happen right there. So you ask them nice, you hand them a sheet of paper or business card, and then you text an email off an app, and it all went out. But they'll see some of it at different times. The text they'll see again later. The email they'll pull open later, hopefully. Number 5, Back at the office, a few days later, a phone call.
Follow up.
Follow-up call. This is number 5, and we'll get into some stuff. I think the stuff after this is a little more interesting. This is just kind of like, oh, that's a good idea, Nolan. I don't know why we aren't doing all these things. These are simple things that just ought to be done.
Right.
So
this is the basics.
This is the basics. When you make the follow-up call, you sincerely want to make sure they're still happy. You don't want to call with only the motive of getting a review, because people see through that and they'll get irritated with you. So,
start the call with just, following up, making sure everything's still okay.
well, my dog's been sick. Well, anyway, listen, forget about your dog.
That review.
Yeah, but what about the review? I know your dog's dying.
Listen to the dog story.
Yeah. So call back, make sure they still like you and like your work. And if they don't like you, if they have a complaint, don't ask for the review again. Yeah. Okay, right?
Just address their complaint. Talk to them and address their complaint right then.
Right. But that, 9+ times out of 10, they're going to be happy still. And you say, hey, I won't bug you again, but we sure would like a review. It helps our business out. And when you review us, it helps us show up better in Google. And I sure would appreciate it. I may send you one more text and I'll leave you alone about it. Right. So that's how that call goes down. Ask if they still like you, if they need any help. If they do need help or they don't like you, don't ask them for a review. Most of the time that's not going to happen. And you're going to ask for a review real good old boy like again. Sincerely, that it helps you. And explain to them, when you give us a review, it helps us get roofs on other people's houses.
Helps us get more business.
Helps us get more business. Okay, so let's talk about the misconceptions. We're talking about reputation, maps, rankings, conversion, people's misconception of what a review is and does. Mm-hmm. So more about what a review does.
Okay.
So the review obviously is something that helps with the conversion and helps the reputation. We know that's what it is.
Right.
But people think that by getting reviews, they'll go up to Pack 3 map ranking and it'll solve all their online
They think
organic.
It's a very simple numbers game.
They think it's a one and done.
Right.
A one and done deal. But they know this isn't entirely true because they see that when people have hundreds of reviews, they aren't in Pack 3 mapping many times. But why is that? It's because the algorithm isn't that simplistic. So,
and we'll get that phone call where they say, well, I've got the most reviews. I've got 100 reviews, and a guy that's only got 40 is beating me.
Yeah.
And I'm a 4.8, and he's a 4.7.
Right.
And I have to explain that it's not just the sheer number of reviews. It's not even the star rating, which Google sort of doesn't seem to care about one way or the other. But like that, Google doesn't go in and refuse to show a guy with a 2.0 in the map pack.
True.
Because they could be sued if they did that.
True. So might affect your conversion, might not.
Oh, it almost certainly would.
Most people that have low ratings on a review, their star rating is low, are there because they don't ask for reviews.
Right.
So they've been in business a while and they don't ask for reviews. Most people love their services, but there's an increased amount of people that didn't like it that will give the review.
Yeah, the only people giving the review are the unhappy people.
Correct.
Because they're not asking the happy people.
Correct.
Also, people with low reviews tend to not be curating their marketing in general, so they're generally not going to show up high anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not because of the reviews. It's just because their general approach to their marketing and business.
Nolan Walker here for Data Pins. You may not know, but I own a software company, and we have a proprietary software called Data Pins, DATAPINS. You can search it at datapins.com. This is not white labeled. I actually own this piece of software, and I made it for you. It was made for contractors. You can actually take pictures of jobs, up to 6, make a caption about the material, the brand, the situation, the repairs, and post that back to your individual pages on your website, just like that. It's super simple. Anyone could use it. It also texts and emails your clients direct links to your reviews, so it helps reputation and reviews, which helps conversion and map placement. The geo coordinate gets grabbed by Data Pins, and Google can tell where you are. So instead of them just seeing reviews, they see all jobs or even estimates that you do. This vastly outperforms just getting reviews. Helps the map show up, helps organic keywords, and remember those captions that you're putting in there help expand the keywords per page, and it's great regular content. I love it. We made it just for you. It is organic optimization on steroids for both your website, your rankings, and the map placement. Check out DataPens. I think you'll be happy you did. I had a call yesterday, and I said I'll be careful about the way we would talk about these things, but I'm going to talk about it. So it's a call of a guy inquiring. He wanted leads, start discussing DataPens and other things, and he'd gone to links on the website. I can't say it was done well, but there was service pages and city pages, but he wasn't showing up in ranking, and he'd hired two salespeople, 2 estimators. So I went over stuff that he could do, and he said, yeah, I heard all that, but what would you do right now? And I kept having, this circular logic conversation about,
Right.
well, reviews help, pins help, digital signaling helps the brand, and you already have a brand that's established, but it's not showing up in ranking. He said, well, I already do SEO. And so people make comments like, I do SEO, and I want to go into this is part of misconception of reviews.
Yeah.
People think, for one thing, that reviews don't have anything to do with SEO. They also think that because they get a review, they already do everything.
Right.
And all these things are completely, I don't know if they're just they're misunderstandings about how Google operates and what happens.
Right.
And they're misunderstandings about what the roofer needs to do to show up in ranking. And I'll tell this story anyway. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to tell some of this stuff. But,
I'm going to stay straight faced.
yeah, so the story was, he said, well, what do you recommend I do right now? And then, so we're 20 minutes, and I said, well, the first recommendation.
Everything I've said for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah, I said the first recommendation is not to discount what's being said to you right this second from the owner of a company that's done this for 13 years.
Right.
So that's the number one recommendation. Don't discount it and assume you know all of it, because that's, so, when people come on here and listen to this, presumably they're trying to up their education level so that they can do better in their business.
Right.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that a review is the only reason somebody shows up in ranking, or that the review, which is attached to the map, and the map is the only thing they need.
And that it's separate from the website.
Or SEO's efforts or their branded signaling at all.
Yeah.
Like it's
Or that SEO is one thing.
Right.
We could go on. Anyway.
We could go on. Your tone degraded, sir, slightly. But yeah, so you need to do more than just this. This is basic at this point in time. If someone doesn't have quality design and code base and content that represents the services, they wouldn't even show up for it. I like to use an example. You might love to have a TPO job, but Google's not going to guess that you perform TPO services or install that material. And if you have a bullet point on your site, it's not good enough for them to show a user, which means the map wouldn't show up nor anything organically.
Right.
So just one little example of how stuff affects your ability to show up in ranking.
One single keyword entity, and you've got to do all of these things just to make that happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to overcome. This stuff isn't difficult to do when you have skilled professionals like roofing webmasters and DataPen software, and people like us with skills, professional skill sets, helping somebody, doing most of it with them helping a little bit. It's not a difficult thing to do, but it also can't just entirely be ignored.
Right.
And somebody running around looking for a lead, but ignoring the fact that they need to brand their signaling through Google to get most of the leads is going to constantly have a hard time.
Not understanding where the lead comes from in the first place.
Yeah, which I say all the time. But
that's a repeated theme.
Over 80% of people go to Google to look for home services, and while they're over 70% click on a non-paid item.
Right.
Everybody, and then all the roofers and every business owner there wants to show up for mapping, but mapping's half or less of all search.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? It means that you can't just ignore your website and other things.
Yeah.
The
website already is an important part of what you're getting, and it could be even more.
Right.
If done properly. Well, someone said to you, I already do SEO.
Right.
Well, then why aren't you ranking?
Right.
Because I would say that if you're not ranking, you're not doing SEO. Because if you're not doing SEO right, you're not doing SEO.
Correct.
Just like if you're not if you're not driving a car well, you're not driving, you're crashing.
Yeah. I had somebody call me the other day, and and they were irritated that we wouldn't do a web design. And I said, well, we are a digital marketing agency that helps a brand get found online.
Oh, they just wanted us to do a design.
I said, well, or presumably when people call us, they want to show up online. He said, and this person legitimately claimed they didn't care at that time. I said, well, look, I've been thinking about a way to tell people this so they understand it, because they seem annoyed at the fact that we don't want to do a design only for someone. We do designs every day, but we don't do one-off designs. When I think about it, I used to get offended by it a little bit, but someone doesn't understand this concept. So I finally put it into an analogy that someone understands. I said, you don't take your Ford to the Ferrari dealership to get repaired. And you don't do that because the high-level expertise at the Ferrari dealership is too expensive, and a Ford repairman can repair your Ford for much
Probably
less.
better than the Ferrari guy
for much less
because
money.
the Ferrari guy wasn't trained on a Ford.
Well, you're messing up my analogy.
Sorry, I screwed
You're
up
messing up my analogy. What the hell?
Analogy defeated.
Well, come up with a better analogy, Jason.
No, it's good.
The point is, we have a lot of highly skilled people that do a lot of work that's, by the way, a really good deal, and that comes with it. And all these components are part of SEO.
Right.
You have to have them. Websites have been around for so long, people take them for granted. That's why we did the podcast, Roofer Marketing, ranking on Google, The Big Show, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So Roofer Marketing, The Big Show was about Google's still the number one thing, but it's been around so long, people forget about it.
Yeah.
Websites have been around so long, people negate it almost. It's like, no, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still the content basis for the reasoning for things to show up your map or your keywords on Google, which is the majority of leads that can occur in the marketplace.
Right.
And people forget that point.
It's we've made this point before, that all of the stuff that has been done before, unless it's now against the rules, it still has to be done.
Right.
It's SEO doesn't go from this task to this task. It goes this task, and then we grab that task and put it on top, and you keep doing that year after year. And the only time you take one out is if Google decides it's now against the rules.
Nolan Walker here for Roofers Paradise. Thank you for checking out our podcast here for Roofing Webmasters, where we talk about nothing but marketing. But I'd love for you to check out Roofers Paradise, where I personally interview and talk with roofers. We talk about their successes, their failures, their dreams, their goals and ambitions. It's a great podcast where we actually speak to roofers. Love to have you check out Roofers Paradise. You can find us on YouTube by searching Roofers Paradise. Any platform for podcasts, search Roofers Paradise. Be sure to subscribe, or you can actually go to roofersparadise.show. Look forward to having you over at Roofers Paradise. Working with digital marketing every day for like 13 years, it doesn't even make sense to me that there's so much human involvement at this point in the game. But there is. I mean, because it seems like you feel like stuff should have been easier by now.
Yeah. But it only gets more complex.
Yeah, someone was talking about it. I remember when I was a kid driving around with my mother, I was like 10 or something, and we had some radio show on. It's like they were all excited about computers, and this was like, I don't even know what year this was, like 1985 or something, and they're like, computers are going to make life so easy that we fully anticipate, and theirs was like they're reading some report, and like, we fully anticipate for humans to only work a 20-hour work week and make more money.
Yeah.
And that was the plan. and it's like, obviously that didn't happen, but
laughable.
But it's weird though that, as the algorithm gets more complicated, there's more human involvement needed.
Yeah.
And I empathize with the roofer or business owner. I'm like, it seems like this shouldn't have to happen, but it does. Seems like you wouldn't have to have extreme high quality tax strategy to get your taxes done if you're a business that wants to save money legally, but you have to go get it.
Yeah.
Why would you have to search so hard, for the best professional service? But it exists. It's the way it is. So if these things aren't done well, you won't rank as well or at all.
Yeah.
And some people think they rank well, but they miss 75% of the keywords they could rank for.
They might rank well on one or two keywords just on the map or something like that, and they look at that and think, hey, that's wonderful. It's like you're missing 70% of what you could be seeing.
Yeah, and another way to look at that is, yes, reviews are important, but so are other things if you really want it to work.
Reviews are one of 100 important things.
That they'll grade your branded web presence. And people don't think about if you think about putting forth a poor effort and you know that Google grades everything, then you wouldn't treat your web effort like you do and only get a review.
Right.
The other way to look at this is if you kind of think you have an okay thing, like the guy that called that was frantically looking for leads,
right,
but had missed the branded effort, which is the majority of the leads. So they call.
Never been in the big show.
Yeah, and then you're constantly looking around to buy leads, or even if you have a little bit of ranking, but you really don't participate in the big show where all the leads come from, which is either the map placement, reputation reviews, or organic keywords above the map or below the map, or if the map doesn't show up.
Right.
Then you really haven't completed that well, and there's no reason to move on to other forms of leads until that's been exhausted.
Right. And I've made this point once before, but I haven't made it in a while. You just said that's the big show, is where the leads come from.
Right.
And someone watching this, of the tens of people that will, has said, no, well, I can get leads from, one of these 3 or 4 lead sellers, yada, yada, yada. They got the leads from the big show.
Yeah, mostly.
You have an opportunity to get the lead before they get it.
Right.
And pay less for it.
Right. And have less competition, have a better lead.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if I could have anybody really understand this stuff, is that you have a digital brand. The branded signaling is what SEO is, and it's multi-faceted to the hundreds of things, at least I would think, that they grade you on. And there's reviews is a big one, but not the only thing. And there's a lot of little things that need to be done in order for it to show up properly. And in my opinion, if people actually did their branded web effort properly, while they could buy more leads and have a successful relationship with, one of the lead sales, they wouldn't have to buy any other leads at all.
Right. That relationship would be optional rather than compulsory.
Rather than that guy calling, looking, because he had already done some paid and some other stuff that hadn't worked for him.
Right.
And we talked about hadn't worked because it works. It just isn't the return on investment that they want.
Right.
So you end up, and of course, I didn't even ask him if the estimators were door knockers, but in order to keep these guys around, he obviously felt compelled to hand leads to them in order for them not to quit.
I've had that phone call too, guys. Yeah. Guys calling me saying, well, I hired this many sales guys, I got to keep them busy. And I really want to say you did that backwards.
Yeah.
But, they'll take that from you. They won't take it from me.
I don't know.
Sometimes they'll take it.
He was a nice guy. We had a good conversation about it, but he wanted a lead like yesterday, and he was in a very competitive market, which means that the lead was the click was gonna be ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, for paid.
Yeah, for paid. So he probably wasn't going to be happy there. And he'd actually done enough work on the site, even though it wasn't working, and had some reviews that it would have responded quickly. Because he actually made a few statements. That's one thing. I know that there's like marketing information out there, and it sways someone's belief system on what is and isn't capable. But he was putting words in my mouth, saying things like, well, I know it takes a long time for organic to get going. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And he said, well, it's what people told you that,
I was talking to one of our current clients. I had sent him a monthly report, and he called back, and I talked to him, went over with it. He goes, and he just launched recently. He's happy, already seeing growth. He's doing pins. It's all good. And he goes, I don't really expect this to pay off for about a year. And I laughed and I said, you're going to be happier a lot sooner than a year. Looking at the numbers I'm already seeing, you ain't waiting that long. He goes, what, like 6 months? I said, try 3.
We had somebody that we did a little report on the other day that within 55 days had like a 45% increase.
Yep.
And I mean, it arguably had one even fully spidered for like 30 days of that.
Yeah, at least 30 days. They're not even fully indexed
crawled,
and put in the database and everything. One thing I wanted to mention, you were talking about what reviews do and don't do and how they work. What reviews do for you in terms of how Google views you is, I made the point before that they don't really care about your star score all that much. But they care that you get the reviews, because what the reviews indicate to them that you're still in business, you're a legitimate business, and you're still active, and you still have customers that are happy enough to leave you, that are engaged enough. Engagement is always the word online, to leave you a review. Right. If you started your business and you got 100 reviews 3 years ago and then said, that's all I need, I'll stop now.
Right.
Then Google looks at that and they're like, for some reason, no one wants to give them a review anymore. And
are they still in business?
Yeah, are they still in business? Are they doing something wrong that people don't want to leave them reviews? Are they not making people angry enough to leave 1-star reviews? But if they're not good enough for people to bother, and then all of a sudden that reduces their trust. Yeah. And then they don't want to show you.
I'm glad you brought it up. So when you use something like data pins, every single estimate or job becomes a signal to Google that you did something.
Right.
So let's say that you have 100 reviews on Google, just as a round number, but you've done 1,200 jobs.
Right.
So every time you pin a job with data pins, it grabs a geo coordinate. It looks like a red pin drop, but to Google, it looks like a digital hand raise. Hey, we were here. And then you get up to 6 photos, which count as unique content. You wrote a caption like roof replacement with GAF HD timberline shingles. And then you picked your roof replacement page and your Springfield page.
Right.
And you put in a client's cell phone number and you hit pin. And then automatically it shoots a text out with links to your reviews to the client, loads it up to your Google business profile with the photo and the caption, and puts the geo coordinate pin drop with the digital hand raise, photos, and the caption on the roof replacement page and the Springfield city page. Now, the individual pages on the website are getting validated that work was done in that category, and you're adding long tail keywords and technical data in the same genre entity word.
Right.
So roof replacement, this stuff, I had a conversation with somebody about this the other day because they had some knockoff product type thing that was all located on the gobbledygook page, but they're doing some check-in type stuff.
Right.
But the site was written poorly and it all originated on one page. So you can't show a client a page that has all categories within the site on it because it's a poor user experience to try to thumb through 400 check-ins to find out what the heck they were talking about. But in this case, GAF HD timberline shingles is a type of shingle used for roof replacement on the roof replacement page.
Right.
It's much more likely to show up, and then Google now knows that they work on that category. But more importantly, when you ask these people and you do Nolen's 5 points of roofer review success, they now know that all jobs that you did.
Right.
Now, you may not get a review for it, but instead of Google just seeing the 100 reviews, which is great, they see all 1,200 jobs.
Right. And you will get some reviews. So you'll
get more reviews, but they'll see all 1,200 or all 1,000 or whatever it was.
See everything you've done.
And so there's activity in the marketplace that helps the map show up and helps everything else, and then the organic builds and all that.
And just to make a point on what you just said about the gobbledygook page, the page where they just show every check-in.
Very common, yeah.
We actually put in a page that shows every check-in. We do that in addition to the other ones you can tag and put them on. We have one that's just a catch-all page that shows everything. Yeah. We do that because the clients tend to like to see that big page with everything they've done, and their customers sometimes like to see that. But when we do these searches, what does Google never show up?
That gobbledygook.
The big pin page is never in search, but the roof replacement page.
The individual services and materials page or the city pages that are getting pinned and validated all show up higher in ranking.
Right.
And then they all expand greatly in the amount of content and long tail keywords. We said this the other day, and
Yeah, I was just making the point that this isn't just a theory. We've seen it in action
Oh, yeah.
in the wild. We see it constantly.
When someone does all this stuff properly, it all works in tandem and it all helps out. But
Right.
yeah, those pages that show up expand so greatly due to long tail keywords. And there's been a report that I forgot. J-Man was talking about it as Ahrefs, or somebody did a report to where half of all search is long
What do they
tail
call
or
it?
low search volume words. Or
Zero search volume. Even though it's not really zero, they called it zero.
half of all human search
Yeah.
of all categories.
That's billions.
But what that means for the client, we got off from the mapping just a little bit, but all this goes and this all
It all
works.
connects,
It all
yeah.
connects. And so half of all the search that you could get is keywords about nuances of your services and materials that people happen to type in a weird strands of words.
Right.
And if you
Not everybody just puts in roofer near me.
well, half of all people don't
Yeah.
don't do that.
You know, I mean,
don't.
good, you know, we try to get roofer near me. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of people are putting in
Right.
stuff around that, and you want all those.
Yeah, you want everything. Yeah, the moral of this is like you want everything. I wanted to explain some of this because people are like, well, you don't show up. Well, you have a digital brand that you neglect the heck out of and only get a review.
Right.
And it doesn't show up well in ranking because there's other competitors of yours that will fight to give a better user experience because they want to show up in Google. Why? Because it's the big show.
Right.
And when they're in the pack 3, their phone lights up. That's and
Every day.
leave them with that. They're not big. What was the thing? I always get it screwed up.
You're not up there because you're big. You're big because you're up there.
Yeah. So
I got it right this time.
yeah, when you're up there on the big show, that's what matters. And
Yeah.
people never been up there just don't know.
Yeah.
They just
They haven't
don't.
experienced it, so they don't get it.
And
And they don't understand how transformative it is.
They don't, and then you run around trying to get leads, and everything's backwards. Nothing wrong with getting a lead, but when you're getting a lead and you haven't gone after the big show, then you don't even understand what's happening. You might still make some money. Nolen Walker here for Roofing Webmasters. I want you to consider becoming one of our clients. We've done this for 12 years, have hundreds of clients. We help everybody with their design, their code, their content, showing up on Google as high as possible. Clients get regular call volume. If you've never experienced what I call the big show, showing up on Google organically, which is where the vast majority of the clicks occur, on your map, your reputation, your reviews, your organic keyword ranking, you owe it to yourself to try us. We even have proprietary software that we own called data pens that lets you post pictures of jobs, unique captions that increase keywords and long tail keywords, your rankings on Google, text and emailing clients about reviews, even posting pins and photos and captions back to Google. All this helps your organic rankings. Data pens is fantastic, and the work we do here at Roofing Webmasters is fantastic. Please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. I got some guys, by the way, that just signed up, put them in the system yesterday. Great guys. I did want to bring this up. It's not worthy of a whole podcast, though, but they slowed down since 2020. 2020 hit. It was already booming. 2019 was a good year just on construction and everything else. 2020 hit. There was a little bubble there where everybody didn't do anything, and then construction went nuts, right? And 2021 was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And anybody who started a roofing business or was in one or any contracting business for that matter was just booming. And they slowed down this year.
Yeah.
And they're part of a mastermind group, great guys. We got quite a few clients from one of these roofing mastermind, or it's just contractor mastermind groups. I don't want to name the name of it, but anyway, they're getting hardcore on their marketing, and they have a site up with a few reviews. There's nothing there, but they didn't have to worry about it. But
it was so busy that they didn't think they needed it.
But it's a smart time to get serious about marketing, because lucky for them, because I don't think they would have done it. They're part of this mastermind group, and a couple of guys that are already doing business with us saying, hey guys,
you need to call Nolen.
If the economy is about to go sideways for a year or 2 or 10 or whatever, and we don't have a storm, and you're not participating in the big show, you might not be in business. But I honestly believe that somebody like that, get going, do this stuff properly, hook up with professional services, get reviews and pins and digital signaling done properly, and won't skip a beat, won't have a hiccup.
Right.
Just keep sailing through. People are still going to get the roofs put on. but it'll definitely be
Roofs still have
diminished.
to be put on. Roofs still have to be repaired, replaced, or whatever.
Well, they already had a diminishment
Yeah.
from this to this point, which is we're just getting in. We're not quite to the third quarter of 2022, right? So they'd already seen a fall off this summer from the frenzy of the at-home construction experience, from a cross between COVID, stay at home, and people not wanting to move because the houses cost too much.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, really couldn't buy it. I mean, they weren't available.
Yeah, didn't have the
For a little,
option.
well, for about a year, they didn't cost too much necessarily, but they weren't. They were being bought so quickly they couldn't get one.
Right.
And then they become unattainable, and now the interest rates are high.
Yeah.
So now they cost too much in the high interest rates. So everybody's starting to rear back on construction spend.
Yeah.
Like extracurricular.
And we've seen that reflected in actual search volume for roofing keywords.
Yeah, a
over
little
the
bit.
summer was lower than it was in
previous year. But when you have yourself marketed properly, the valleys are a little higher, the peaks are a little higher. It averages everything out. That's the whole point, you know, to doing it. We can't stop the economy from going up and down and stuff like that. But I do know that if you're marketed to the hilt, you're going to have the easiest time of it. Things will ebb and flow over the course of time with money and economy. And if a roofer's lucky, it'll storm. You know, I think Florida's getting pummeled right now.
Literally right now, we're recording this as Hurricane Ian is making landfall in Florida.
My wife will always come in and go, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Oh, the roofers are gonna have a heyday."
Woo!
She's like, "People are dying." I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna be."
Yes, but the roofs.
The roofs are really messed up. Good for their business. It's like, it's really inland. They weren't expecting it. It's like, man, they don't usually get their roofing share. Now they're going to get it. It's like,
we had a roofer one time that his email address was pray for hail.
yeah. It's an argument for that, man. It's an act of God, I guess. I don't know, man. But yeah, the Florida roofers are going to be busy for a while. Where's it hitting? It's going across Tampa?
It came around the western side
wow.
of Florida. It went into the Gulf. And
So
then
Clearwater,
like
so it hit all that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's rough. That
it was hitting at like Category 4 too. Usually they don't make it into the Gulf.
That hasn't happened in years.
It hasn't happened in quite some time. Usually when they get into the Gulf, they go to Louisiana. They just keep going across, but it hooked around.
Oh, wow. They'll be busy. But I tell you what, though.
Yeah, 155 mile an hour winds.
Should not leave your roofing company up to weird economic activity, COVID lockdowns or random acts of God.
Right.
You should not leave it up to that. So if you have...
That's the thing. Somebody who started a roof company 3 months ago in Florida is about to get a big payday.
Right.
But then a year
if they
from
don't
now,
figure this out, they won't.
Yeah, if he hasn't figured this out, and we've seen this happen. If he hasn't figured it out, it's going to fall off, and he's not going to know what happened. He's not going to understand.
Yeah.
And we've seen it many times before.
You might make more money during the storm period, but if you don't market, is that mine? Is that mine?
Yeah, that wasn't mine.
If you don't market well, you won't stand the test of time.
Right.
You just won't. The ebbs and flows will kill you without that. Otherwise, they're just bonus material when a hailstorm or a hurricane comes through. But anyway, all right, guys, if you need any help, we'd love to help you. We're here to be of service. You can call us at Roofing Webmasters or DataPen Software. Like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed Nolen's 5 points of roofer review success.
See you.